Hello, and welcome to Inventors Helping Inventors. I'm your host, Alan Beckley, inventor of the Wonder Wallet. If you're an inventor searching for proven ways to make money with your invention, if you dream to see your product selling in stores everywhere, you've come to the right place. There's no better place to get help than from experts, inventors who've already achieved success. Every week, I interview successful inventors, asking them the questions you want to know. Tune in to learn from the experts so you can get your invention out of the tank and into the bank.
The classic, most businesses crash, one, because they don't solve a problem that anybody really cares about, or two, they run out of cash.
Would you invest 3 hours to learn 3 proven steps to invention success? It's 3 things that just about every inventor does: product search, prototyping, and licensee search. But doing them the wrong way can cost you thousands of dollars and years of time. I know from personal experience. That's why I created my new program, 3 Proven Steps to Invention Success, to show you the right way to do them. But you just missed the deadline to register, which was Sunday, May 19th. But the good news is, as a podcast listener, you can still join us in the first class tonight, Monday, May 20th, if you register by 5 p.m. Eastern today. All the details and registration are at www.alanbeckley.com/proven steps. It's 3 one-hour classes over 3 weeks, starting tonight. I hope you can join us. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you'll meet other inventors too. But don't wait till it's too late. Go to www.alanbeckley.com/proven steps now, and we'll see you in the class tonight. Welcome to episode number 408. Today, I interview Kevin Moran. Kevin Moran is a mechanical engineer and entrepreneur from Michigan Technology University. He's a 2010 graduate and received the 5 Under 35 Young Alumni Award in 2019. His work experiences include engine design, production, military R&D, and consumer product development, as well as assisting in building an Ann Arbor-based startup that creates innovative methods of detecting, identifying, and localizing radiation for the U.S. military. His designs have appeared in 2020, National Geographic, Car and Driver, Motor Trend TV, ChrisFix, and in several documentaries with billionaire and founder of 5 Hour Energy, Manoj Bhagarava, whom he shares several patents with. He's a serial entrepreneur and now full-time inventor with 2 brands and has a deep passion for developing products that are effective yet simple. His invention, the oil udder, takes the hassle and the mess out of changing your own oil. His most recent invention, the 5-minute pet bath, makes bathing your pooch a pleasure for both parties. In his free time, Kevin loves a good adventure. He's climbed Denali, traveled across continents off-road on motorcycles, and has been scuba diving around the world. His personal motto is, "Quit working to know someone and start working to become someone to know." You'll want to listen to this entire interview where you'll learn why Kevin chose to rebrand his product name from the Magic Shower to the 5-minute pet bath. Also, Kevin shares 2 key reasons why most product businesses fail and how to avoid falling into the same mistakes. And finally, why Kevin chose to make an intelligent pivot in his business by shifting his marketing focus from the oil udder to the 5-minute pet bath. Now let's get right to our interview with Kevin Moran. Kevin Moran, it's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast with us again today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You bet. Kevin, we first interviewed you on the podcast back in July of 2023 in episode number 322. For listeners who've not listened to that episode, you may wish to pause this episode and listen to that one first. But in that episode, we discussed primarily your oil udder product, and we chatted briefly about your newer product that was then called the Magic Shower. Since that time, you've done quite a pivot in your business, choosing to focus more marketing effort on your newer product, now rebranded as the 5 Minute Pet Bath. So, can you update our listeners on your progress over the last 10 months or so since summer of 2023? Many of our listeners may currently be struggling with whether to shift their focus from one invention to a different one. Can you share with our listeners what caused you to shift your marketing focus from the oil udder to the 5 Minute Pet Bath?
Absolutely. And it's a great question. One of the big things we really wanted to focus on was inventions. They tend to take similar amounts of time, no matter if you're doing a big product in a big market or a small product in a small market. So it's really got down to, if we're going to put the same amount of effort into something, let's have the biggest possible outcome. And with what we learned on the oil udder and the market size, how difficult it was to get a sale, cost to acquire a customer, those sort of items, we said, okay, we've got this ball of knowledge, and we knew the market size was so much bigger in the pet space that it was just a really clean and clear answer for us to just focus majority of our cash and our changes in the 5 Minute Pet Bath.
That makes perfect sense. And the thing I would say about that is you made a really great point I want to highlight for our listeners. And that is, you just made the point that it takes the same amount of time and focus and often capital to focus on a small market and product related to that has a limited upside in sales, as opposed to a much larger product or a much larger market. So from a business perspective, it makes sense to focus your limited resources on something that is a bigger market that ultimately has a larger total appeal than would be the case for a smaller market. And you also mentioned the cost of customer acquisition. And that's another important business metric that a lot of times people aren't really keeping track of.
Yeah, and it's actually something my business partner really turned me on with his experience in the cell phone industry. But a lot of people will have a niche invention and it'll have a great cost, it'll have a great price point, it'll have a nice margin, but they don't anticipate how difficult it is to find somebody who cares about that problem and is willing to pay for it.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And I think I describe that generically as I call it the customer experience. What is a customer experience when they buy the product, consider buying the product? Is it easy for them to use? Is it easy for them to understand what value it conveys? And sometimes inventors just think everybody sees it exactly the way they do. And they don't put themselves on the other side of the aisle saying, I'm walking down in a store and I look up and I see a box with this in it and the key elements. What's going to make me say, wow, that's what I want. I need that, as opposed to, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, and that leads into where we drove and wanted to drive some of the changes in the pet space, because you talked about walking down the aisle and looking up or having your attention grabbed. And one of the things we had this analogy in this conversation about was, if we had a banner behind the airplane at a large stadium event and it said the original name, the Magic Shower, what does that tell you? And the answer is not a lot. Is it a tool? Is it a service? It doesn't really answer the question. And we drove deeper and did a lot of diving into this. But when it says the 5 Minute Pet Bath, it starts to answer the question in the name of what is it? And that what is it will then lead to the next series of questions is, how is it good for me? Or that's exciting. And you'll end up breaking a barrier that you didn't realize existed as an inventor, where you have to explain what it is, and then you have to then get somebody excited about it. It becomes difficult to get a sale.
Yeah, that's a lot of educating, isn't it? As I was listening to that, what I was thinking is takes them from, well, that's curious, but there's not much they can do with it, to answering the question, what is it? And then their curiosity is more in depth of, oh, a 5 minute pet bath. I wonder what that's about. That sounds interesting, because now they have something to direct their focus. And now you can answer the question much more directly than magic shower might sound like something they would buy to entertain their children, with sparkles or something. Or it could be just a normal shower that somebody takes, but it doesn't immediately pull a visualization to people's mind that I think is clear. So I think that's a key point. I think you essentially answered the question. That's what caused you to change the name to make it more clear. And so I guess to follow up on that, what I'd say is, so you then looked at rebranding from the magic shower to the 5-minute pet bath. What challenges have you faced with that rebranding your product to a new name? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, and it's a 6-month process at best, even as somebody working full time on it and having help. You're dealing with international manufacturing. Things don't happen quick. And so one of the big things you have to plan is simply the classic most businesses crash. One, because they don't solve a problem that anybody really cares about, or two, they run out of cash. And so when you rebrand something, you're going to have a cash flow issue and you're going to have a gap in sales where you stop selling one product or one brand and then you're going to start selling another one, particularly if you're doing it online. Other basic things that need to change, obviously, are a cohesive and synergistic, to do a corporate buzzword there, of the website, the boxes, the logos, the videos, the instruction manual, the new Amazon photo. All those things need to have the same clarity and the same message and the same content. And then it comes down to an issue of timing. Are you going to run your inventory down, obsolescence management, to keep that cash coming in and then do a split? Are you going to start another online seller account and do a simultaneous sale? Then you're effectively potentially competing against yourself, which could be a dangerous thing, but it also could really help cash. We decided to burn the inventory we had down to zero. That we knew we were going to have zero cash flow. We were going to have an Amazon algorithm hit because we were going to have a low or a no inventory condition for a short period of time. But the benefit of that is, if you accidentally rebrand or change your name, do something that clarifies the product, but somebody wants a 5-minute pet bath, then what shows up in their mailbox is a magic shower, you've got a ticked off customer. And that's something that is difficult to manage. So obsolescence is always a challenge.
You made several really great points that I would like to, again, highlight with our audience a little bit. And first and foremost, you said, look, this rebranding sounds really great. You always hear the end of the story. Oh, we made a pivot and rebranded. Now everything's great. That's the outcome at the end, but it doesn't talk about the voyage getting to that point. And you mentioned that it's at a minimum of 6-month process. And as you mentioned, every inventor has to show their product solves a problem people really care about. But in the process of rebranding, first of all, you're going to have cash flow problems because you've got to decide what to do with your existing inventory and how you transition from the one brand to the other, as well as, I like the 3 C's you said: cohesive, clarity, and content, that all of these things have to meld together. And then you mentioned your decision to burn your inventory to zero. And I'd also spend just a little bit more off of that decision, in the sense that sometimes inventors don't understand that an inventory is an expense to the business until it gets converted into a sale. So having a lot of inventory is not a good thing. So if you went the opposite direction and quickly switched to this whole new branding, et cetera, and you've got a bunch of inventory in the old brand name sitting on the shelf that you can't sell, that's just burned capital. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. And it's one of those tough decisions that you need to make, as I call it, entrepreneuring at some level, because it's not just inventing, it's not just entrepreneuring, it's that bridge between the two. But you need cash coming in, and sometimes, and most of the time, you have a better product coming out, but the business needs to survive. And so you're going to sell your third best because you need that money to make the second best available down the road. And some environments or some personalities really struggle with it. They want to sell the best, newest thing. And if you're sitting on $20,000-$30,000 of inventory, you can't just scrap that. Not when you've launched a product off your own savings account. So having a plan is to manage your inventory and convert that to cash, even if it's giving deals, and being careful to give deals that still make you some money, is really important.
Yeah, I so much agree with that. So looking towards the future, what results do you expect to see in the next 6 months to a year, with your primary focus now shifting to the 5-minute pet bath? And with that question, I would ask, do you also see a future going forward for the oil udder as well? So how would you look at both of those products, and especially regarding the 5-minute pet bath, and where you see it going in, say, the next 6 months to a year?
Great question. So The next 6 months, hope is not a plan. And we've executed a plan. Actually, today, our new website goes live, of all things. The boxes are in, the new product is going inbound to Amazon right now. In the next 6 months, we expect to verify and validate our changes. And of course, we'll miss a few things and we'll need to make some small adjustments, but we hope to really start making a dent in the Amazon algorithm with positive reviews. We are donating a small portion of each sale to local pet shelters. That's going to hopefully help drive sales as well as help some local dog shelters. And to give a bit of a sort of environment we're working in and what we're trying to take a dent out of, we only have about 4 competitors that are in the tool-free shower attachment, like convenient dog wash space. And they are around 500 to 4 million in revenue each, depending on which one you pick. And we intend to take a big dent out of them. But we also intend, because we're so uniquely positioned as the only gentle gravity bath that is really designed as its core value to not scare the dog. And when you don't scare the dog, it's faster. And then we add consumables on top of it with Epsom salt, which is actually very good for the dog skin, which is another addition we're going to be launching here very soon. We expect to bring in new customers as well. So Amazon algorithm is really something that we're pushing hard for, as well as we are going live on Walmart.com and talking with Chewy as well. So other retail avenues. And after that, there's really no limit. If we're going to try to get into retail space, we're going to push hard. Oil udder, on the other hand, we really never give ourselves a lot of credit. It's been a very successful invention for even a really tiny market space. We should be a lot more proud of it than we are because it has sold quite well. And we do intend to actually we intend to not make too many changes to the product itself, but we are going to update some manufacturing things, but we will likely begin influencer marketing at the end of this year. So we haven't, because back to what we were talking about with names, the oil udder being such a sticky name and almost an unforgettable name, it almost has no advertising. It's word of mouth. We find people generally just reference it and search it directly and then buy it. And that says a lot about what we talked about previously of getting a name that really works and kind of explains a little bit of the space and the what is it question. But we are open to even licensing oil udder as well. So that tends to continue to be our playground where we try things, and we're a lot more focused on magic shower as to where the direction.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I like several things, once again, that you said there, talking about verifying and validating. Those are things a lot of inventors sometimes don't think about doing. And also just the idea donating to pet shelters is obviously a goodwill thing, but also will drive quite a bit of attraction. And more importantly, I would say in the scheme of all of this, you've closely studied your key competitors and know who they are, and you actually know their market metrics as well. So that gives you a much clearer picture of what the marketplace looks like and what you've got to work towards. And one question I would ask just in general, you mentioned they were anywhere from 500,000 to 4 million in revenue each. Out of curiosity, could you share with us how if you can, how you discovered what their revenues were? Was there a somewhat simple way you did that, or you just had to do a lot of research?
The simple research is obviously search the product name and then in Google go to news, and you can generally find articles or conversations that the other inventors or the other products have had. And sometimes they'll reveal some financial information in those. The easiest one, however, is you can go and use some tools if you search Amazon sales estimator, between the Amazon sales rank. So when you scroll down in an Amazon listing, there'll be sort of a matrix of information of things that you never really care about, but in there will be a sales category and a sales rank. And using those two pieces of information, you can actually backwards calculate their revenue on a monthly basis. Now, it is a little inaccurate because when we do our own, we're like, wow, that's way off right now. But if you were to do it over the course of 6 months, you get an idea of what people are selling. And that is a very good way to put together a spreadsheet. If you're selling a particular product or you're looking to sell in a particular space, Amazon, you can pull that data from Amazon very easily and know what people are spending, what price points they're spending, and what the volume is.
I often share with inventors that that Google is your friend, right? In other words, if you learn how to use Google all by itself effectively. There's so many more in-depth ways you can take the next step with Google and find much more. And then in the Amazon world, there are so many products out there. I forget the one that's called Jungle Scout, I think it is, but that will allow you to estimate Amazon sales as well. But you used the Amazon sales estimator. And the main thing is, yeah, guess what? As an inventor, you do need to know about the marketplace. You do need to know about your key competitors because you're competing. You want to build a business. You want to be as effective as you can be. So I think all of that's great. I also just wanted to highlight, you mentioned there's actually a lot of good things about the oil lighter as a product. Now, the market's pretty small, but as you said, the name is extremely sticky, which is really a great thing because people hear it and they can pretty quickly gather what it is. Doesn't require a lot of explaining. Whereas when you were having the name before of the magic shower, you have to start explaining right away. What the heck is this magic shower and what is it for? But when you switch to the 5-minute pet bath, not so much explaining now. They know it's for pets and they can bathe the pet in 5 minutes. So anyways, those are all great points that you made, and I really appreciate that.
And you're correct. That is Jungle Scout. And to add to your point, here's a couple more names that people may or may not recognize. Let's use yours, right? Wonder Wallet, Bunch of Balloons, Scrub Daddy, Drop Stop, Bug Bite Thing, Sleep Styler, Squatty Potty. They all have the same theme where it gives you, it's answering what is it in the name, and it's curious. Then you're curious about the Squatty Potty. You're curious about Bunch of Balloons. You're curious about the Drop Stop, right? And it doesn't require, you get the excitement, you get the attention, and you don't have to answer, what is it? So it's a theme in the inventing world. And it's something that I think a lot of inventors should think about when naming their product.
Makes so much sense. Another great tool for that, a person I met recently, Alexandra Watkins, wrote a book. She's quite a naming expert, having done, I think, the Baconator name for one. And she's got a website called eatmywords.com. And there's a little tester where you can plug in a product name and it can, give you some thoughts as to what's good about it or not so good about it. And that's free. So if you just go to eatmywords.com, Alexandra Watkins, she's quite a guru on product naming, for example, and branding. So something I thought I would share with our listeners and something you might want to check into as well.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So I will check that out. That's really a good piece of information.
You bet. As we roll towards a close, I'd like to ask, are there any parting words that you'd like to leave us with?
Actually, I got to spend some time thinking about this question, and I try to really taper my corporate buzzwords, but I came up with, you really need to pivot intelligently. And pivot for the sake of pivoting is just work for work's sake. And I wanted to use pivot intelligently with something we used to use in the manufacturing world, which is continuous versus continual improvement. And there's a big change between those two, and people are generally very confused between the two. So continuous being a exponential sort of curve is, you get a piece of information, you panic because you got a 1-star review and you inject a change, right? Versus continual, which looks more like a staircase. If you continue to use a continuous change, you start introducing the fact that you may not know what you make and how you made it. And then you don't know if you're improving or if you're not, because is the customer getting, is that review for a revision A or is that review for a revision B, or did you not even log revision? And so it's very important to pivot intelligently and do continual improvement, where you essentially you have your minimum viable product, you launch that and you listen for a while, and it's frustrating because sometimes you need to listen and be patient because you're not going to get clear feedback for some time, and the rate in Amazon, 1 to 2 reviews per 100 sales is very common. If you can get 3, that's doing great. If you get 1, you should probably try to figure out how to do a little bit better. And what you want to do after that is then rank though. Like when we launched the Magic Shower originally, we had a tube that wasn't performing well. And the number one complaint of our product was pinching tube condition. So we ended up going for 4 or 5 months, selling, ranking, prioritizing what changes we could afford. And we realized we had to change the tube. And so we injected 1 change into the product. We didn't change the branding. We didn't change the messaging. We didn't change the instructions. We just changed the tube and we watched what happened. And those bad reviews went away. And then the next thing that we needed to fix rose up. And that sort of iterative process of breaking your development into stages in an organized and methodical way is something I think that is underestimated. And a lot of inventors will get too chaotic with the feedback, try to make changes too quickly. They end up churning a bunch of knobs and they don't know what the knobs are doing anymore. So at that point, you're building and selling a snowflake, and that's never a good thing.
I like that. That makes so much sense regarding continuous and continual. And what I really liked and took out of that regarding your pivot intelligently is do what a scientist does. Make one change and test and see what the results are, and spend whatever time it takes to measure the effect of that one particular change. Don't make 3 different changes and have results that are either better or not better, but you don't even know what was the better. And that's the challenge. If you're continually changing multiple things, there's no way to really measure accurately what it is that caused the benefit, or that maybe you had a benefit and one of the changes took it the opposite way.
And that's absolutely a good point. Talking details, and people really like this, is when we launched our minimum viable product, we had to change the tube. Now we had our 1.0 product, we had to change the instructions because people did not understand that you could plug the nozzle, fill it up, and release it, because one of our big objections was there was poor water flow. And we obviously have no control over the amount of water. That's determined by the shower head, but that's still our problem, whether we like it or not. And so we had to update the instructions to try to educate people to then say, hey, you're going to have low, gentle flow. And when you need a lot of water, plug the end, let it fill up and release. And then into the new product, which we've moved away from including a name change into the 5-minute pet bath, we've reordered, re-ranked, repositioned, and redone all the instructions to address the biggest customer education problem, customer experience problems, in order of which they come up. And so we had a major issue with the bungee cord. So we tried to have a really simple attachment, tool-free attachment method where you twist the bungee cord, put it over the shower head, twist it again, and snap it. A lot of people don't read the instructions. And so what they were doing is they would just open up the bungee cord and snap it over the shower head. And they didn't twist it, so it would fall off when it got heavy. We got away from trying to educate people to twist it, and we now have cord locks on it. The push and slide things on a backpack, we're going to eliminate that problem now as well. So these are all things that it may have taken a year to eventually figure out, or not figure out, but rank and go, okay, our biggest issue right now is stability and attachment related problems. That's coming into the new product. That's a design change. Other issues were related to instruction. And so we updated the instructions. And so again, being methodical and organized and doing a continual improvement way to make sure that we don't change too much to know its effect.
Final question for you then is, how can our listeners reach you if they have other questions?
You bet. So we are on Instagram. So 5-minute pet bath on Instagram. You'll contact me directly on my cell phone. You also have 5minutepetbath.com, and then oiludder.com is another way through the other brand, or dreammachinellc.com, which is the LLC that runs those, are all ways to get in contact with me, and my email and ways to contact us are available there.
Okay, just to repeat a couple of those. Via Instagram, they can find you on 5-minute pet bath, as well as 5minutepetbath.com. And then with your other product, oiludder.com, right?
That's correct.
Kevin, once again, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast again and sharing with us how you made a very significant business pivot. And now you're working through that and seeing what the next phase is going to look like. And I'd like, once again, to reserve a chance to speak with you another 6 months or perhaps a year and see how things are then going once you've made all your changes and address everything for the 5-minute pet bath and see what it looks like at that point. So once again, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me, and I absolutely look forward to the next one.
You bet. So you're done searching for your product and it's not out there. Yay! Maybe you filed for a provisional patent and done some marketing research or surveys. Heck, maybe you've even created a rough prototype, then found that, although it kind of works, it looks like something from the Stone Age. You'd be embarrassed to show it to your friends, much less to a manufacturer for a licensing pitch. What if I could put you in touch with a guy who offers free consultations, takes no money down, no money up front, and will give you a quote on your project before he starts? What if I told you that this same guy can help you design your product and make you a virtual prototype before you ever put a penny into building a physical one? What if I told you he could make you patent drawings, CAD files for manufacturing, and even make marketing videos and build you a website? If this sounds like someone you want to talk to, let me introduce you to my first podcast sponsor, Brian Keast at I Draw Dreams for Inventors. With 3.5 years of trade school and 15 years of mechanical experience working as a mechanic for General Motors, you have someone that's seen countless design failures and how they were fixed. Also, he had a 25-year career as a general contractor who designed his own houses and remodels on computer-aided design. In getting plans through countless building departments, he gained a tremendous amount of experience by working directly with structural engineers. The many years of combined experience in these two careers gave him a unique look into stresses and failures in design. He brings this wealth of knowledge and experience to his company, I Draw Dreams, as the CAD guy who will design a product for you that will work. Every inventor I've referred to Brian has come away delighted with the work he has done for them, and I think you will too. Just make sure to tell them that Alan sent you. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inventors Helping Inventors. If you like the show, please tell your friends about it. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts so you won't miss a single episode. Talk to you soon.